Hello and welcome to the temple. I am Erin Saniva, your high priestess. And as we enter the temple today, I welcome the presence of our highest selves. I welcome the presence of the highest consciousness into this space, highest love, highest compassion. I ask for the divine to hold us in the light today, in this equinox, in this balance of light and dark. I welcome the benevolent teachers and weavers of the divine plan to grace this space, to support the expansion and sharing of spiritual experience and education. This is the place where we witness the work that we talk about. We can be present for the unfolding of hearts returning to their true medicine. And you may be called to this space today because you are seeking connection to your divinity or seeking a place where you can truly dive in to your inherent perfection. It's time to remember how to heal and to walk the path of love and to participate in the restoration of the divine plan on earth. Welcome. Welcome, friends, and happy equinox. So here we are, and I want to call into presence this moment of balance, the holding of the equanimous reverence, honoring shadow and light, the depths and the heights, the sun and the moon, the sky and the earth, the divine and the human. I welcome into presence the heart fire, alchemizing divine love from the center of our own source. Here in the center of our hearts, I acknowledge and amplify the blue flame of Sophia, the emerald crystal heart flame, the white Christed flame, and the triple solar dragon flame. I call into presence Grandmother, Mother Nut, keeper of the night sky. I call into presence Mother Gaia, Solaris, solar dragon. Great Father in the sky, Father Ra. Whew. Welcome, welcome, welcome. So, there are a few things that I have on my heart, on my mind, that I want to present to you, that I want to bring to you. But initially, most importantly, I want to bring you into the frequency of loving vibrations, bring myself, support myself. Hello, everyone. Hi, Donna. Hi, Pensy. And just sing. Just sing for a little bit. I invite you to sing with me. And, as you just receive the music, if you feel called to make the sounds, to participate with me, I invite you, as you do that, to really allow yourself to breathe into your heart, to settle into this space where we can, really revive our own inner light. And singing is just that. It's an opportunity to revive your inner light, to connect to your heart fire, and to really, using the bellows of the lungs to connect to the frequency of the heart and to amplify it in your field, and not just in your field, but also in the world. Everything that we do, everything that we sing, everything that we speak, everything that we act upon is felt by the collective, whether greatly or subtly. And we all, Lori, we all have the ability, thanks Donna, we all have the opportunity every day to add light to the world, to shine light into dark places. And one of the ways that I do that for myself, for all of you, for everyone, is to sing. And yeah. Star water, oh divine sun, star of water, oh great divine being, the Creator made you, the power of creation, he and I, star water, divine sun, star water, oh divine being, star water, oh divine sun, star water, oh divine being, the Creator gave you the power of creation. Hey, and so we call upon Star Water today, Grandmother Nut, Mother Nut of the night sky, she who holds the rising and the setting of the sun, she who swallows the sun at night and rebirths it in the morning. We hail you, Mother, Grandmother Nut. Where you lie, 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 your heart we we honor the day rebirth from you. We honor the way we are in you. 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 Welcome. Welcome, welcome. So, we are in this really powerful place right now. And I pray that you are listening to the call of your heart, to the call of spring, to the call of this presence that's coming forward right now, that is calling on those of us who are how do we respond when the world is in conflict? How do we respond when there's war? As spiritual beings, like I always come back to this place within myself that's like, okay, what is my job? Spiritual activism, right? Like I am not a physical warrior, I am a spiritual warrior. So how can I hold the space to raise the vibration, and not just by raising the vibration, but opening up more of humanity to the heart field, to the heart consciousness. And singing is one way to do that. Prayer is another way to do that. And it's also really important for us to be paying attention to our own shadows, paying attention to the parts of ourselves that are ready for illumination, ready for renewal. My rose oil is calling out to me. Oh, it's divine. If you ever need some rose oil, I invite you to go to Emerald Temple. I think it's emeraldtemple.com. This divine sister, oh, I have just a few drops left. This amazing sister, she makes this rose oil specifically within the vibration, the frequency of the Sisterhood of the Rose, which is an ancient lineage that is anchored onto this planet. So the presence of the rose, if we understand that the rose herself is the highest frequency plant on the planet, and it really can help us a lot. So little shout out to the roses. I've got some yellow roses here today. So how can we actually actively participate in ending war on the planet? And that is by looking at the war inside of ourselves, right? And how can we transcend our own shadows? And that is by illuminating them, by acknowledging them. If we are consistently ignoring the parts of ourselves that are negative, right? That are doubtful, right? That are violent, that are angry, that are vengeful, right? There's a huge value in recognizing our faults, in recognizing where we are not holding ourselves to the highest standard. And whether that is from our lives, from before this life, right? Like however we got here, we have a responsibility. Like, I really appreciate when people are like, okay, you were raised a certain way, but now you're an adult and it's time to take responsibility for your own actions, your own choices, and your own internal dialogue, right? Or monologue, I would say. But how are you actually projecting your shadow or your painful story into the world and allowing that to manifest? So of course it's very complex, and there are a lot of different facets to what do I have control over, right? And in this regard, we have control over how we see the world, how we respond to the world, what's happening with things especially that feel out of our control. How am I going to make this place better? And it starts with me acknowledging my shadow parts. And the spring equinox is quite a powerful time for us to do that for ourselves. And so I'd love to hear from you. I'll be vulnerable. I can very easily speak to my shadow parts. I have envy, right? I'm envious of other priestesses who are wildly successful, and I compare myself to them, and I might doubt myself or say, oh, I'm not skinny enough to be that popular, or I'm not eloquent enough, or I'm not soft enough, right? And all of these are potential lies, right? Like, here's the thing, the truth about shadows, shadow work, and really tending to the shadows within ourselves is we actually have to notice where we are lying to ourselves, you know, and that's actually where we can start. I'm just going to share this to my main page, to my personal page. And, you know, so can you actually look at how you are with yourself and recognize lies, right? And in these, you know, in these awarenesses, we do have to have like this discernment of like, okay, those are lies, right? And then there's this other part of like, what is something that is a visceral, you know, response that you have that could be a shadow aspect, that we would just label it as a shadow, right? So someone that is very reactive, someone that is very defensive, right? And this is something that I've worked on a lot over the years. And especially when, you know, when someone confronts me and says like, you know, I don't think you're acting right in one way or another, then I might be like, well, you're not acting right, you know, and like, and right. And this is a very human thing for us to do. But if we can, in those moments where we feel like, oh, I'm being attacked, I'm under attack, or this person is attacking me, or this person can't see all of me, and they're only seeing that part that reflects them, right? That can be our initial, like, you know, ego's way of protecting ourselves, while at the same time, we can actually breathe into that moment, into that experience, like, okay, is this a lesson for me? Is this a test, right? And, you know, whenever I have, especially like a friend that like calls me out, somebody that I trust, you know, because I'm also like somebody that is like, please call me out if you think that I'm, you know, doing something that's not kind or in alignment with love, or what. And so then when it happens, it's not always, you know, the best feeling, right? And there are people who will go their whole lives, or, you know, go like half of their lives without, you know, without people saying, hey, that's inappropriate, right? And then when someone does finally call them out and say, you're being inappropriate, or you're being unfair or unkind, then that can be really jarring to that person, because nobody's ever spoken back to that person. And that's very often, like, narcissists have that, you know, no, they have that ability to be so, you know, powerfully offensive in the offense all the time, that that nobody would even dare, you know, like talk back to them, or call them on their shit. So then when a narcissist does actually, you know, receive someone who's not afraid of them, who is not a weak empath, I'm not saying that empaths are weak, but who's not a weak empath, right? And, you know, calls them on that, that can be incredibly jarring and painful to the ego, right? So that's why it really is important. I feel like we do have a responsibility to call each other on our shit, and that's also how, I'm, may not be aware of certain shadow aspects of myself if other people don't bring them to my awareness. Like relationship is where we grow the most, because then we have this whole other perspective of how we are and how we affect other people. I remember the first time someone told me literally these words: your actions affect other people. The way you act, how you are, the things you say. And this was coming from, I was in my 20s, this was coming from a lover, and I had had this whole kind of drama, messianic awakening experience, and then just kind of, disappeared. And then when I showed back up, he was like, ouch. And I was like, oh shit, look at where my ego took me, And so there's this self-awareness that comes with shadow work. They go hand in hand. And so being in balance, allowing ourselves to be in balance of darkness and light, building relationship with both is how we are balanced humans, so that we can acknowledge and understand where our defenses are, right? And how we are offensive, whether that is, out of the desire to protect and preserve, or just a simple reactionary trauma response, right? So we all come from these different backgrounds. We come from different areas of reality where, even consider if you're, from the United States, there is a very well-known dramatic difference between East Coast and West Coast people. And if you're raised on the East Coast, you are, especially Northeast, you're probably very thick-skinned. You probably, have strong opinions that you don't mind espousing, right? And you call people on their shit, right? And you might not be very kind about it, right? This is a generalized kind of way that people understand East Coasters to be. West Coast would be much more sensitive, much more, I'm going to use this term, snowflake, much more wounded, right? Much easier to harm. And I've lived on both coasts, and I know this from direct experience, that living on the West Coast makes you a softie. Makes you a softie. And living on the East Coast makes you tough. It turns you into a tough guy. And there are different reasons for that, cultural reasons that, I don't need to really go into, but this is, a really good example of how your environment shapes you. And what are you going to do with that, right? If you spend time in New York City, you will be toughened, whether you like it or not. You cannot be a soft little kitty in New York City. You will not survive. You will be chewed up and spit out. And I lived in 3 of the 5 boroughs, and each of them were equally challenging, but for different reasons, because they all carried different energies, right? I used to live two blocks from Times Square. That was intense. And that was also where I first saw demons just hanging out on the sidewalk. And I was like, oh, they're everywhere. It was very eye-opening for me. So what you might, call a shadow aspect of the East Coast is a lack of sensitivity. And what you might call a shadow aspect of the West Coast is a lack of durability, a lack of backbone, So, so that doesn't mean, so that's also perspective. Because if you're from the East Coast, you might say, well, that backbone is needed in order to survive, right? And you can have that backbone and still be a good person. There are a lot of really good people that are there, in New York City, on the East Coast, all that. And there are a lot of really good people on the West Coast who have backbone and who have durability. So it's also perspective as to what is positive or what is shadow, right? What is light and what is shadow. And yeah, Pensy, they say it like it is, right? Like they don't beat around the bush, And so what is it within ourselves that we might be strong about or that we might be weak about? And so when we come into this place of calling for alignment within ourselves, we're also calling forward our voice, our authentic voice. And what is our authentic voice? That is not, oh, wow, Lori, I love it. I never lived in Queens, but my stepmother is from Astoria. Essentially, though, I actually worked out of Queens when I worked for the farmers market. So we have these ways of growing within us and acknowledging these parts of us that have hardened, that have softened over time due to experience, right? Whether that's trauma or whether that is, awesome experience. As I was saying before, it is relationship that we grow the most because we have that mirror right there to tell us whether we're right or wrong or nice or kind or mean or what. And we might never know unless there's somebody else brave enough to tell us. So, so with this awareness within ourselves, we also need to recognize how we are being shaped by our culture, by theology, by identity politics, and that is a huge shadow that is really prevalent in this country especially, but throughout the planet, right? There's left wing and right wing, and this is so, it's so orchestrated, right? And humanity falls into these traps that are laid for us by the shadow itself, by shadowy figures, by shadowy demons. And no, Jessica, very, very, that is also really incredibly valuable. Thank you for saying that. I have a really good example actually that's like very right now that I might share. I'm still kind of like, should I share this? But so there's this there's this awareness that most of humanity really are not coming to, that they're not coming to the mass manipulation of your, of your opinions, of your energy, of your, it's like you're not, I'm speaking in a general way. The majority of humanity, especially in the United States, are totally oblivious to the emotional manipulation of identity politics. And they are pulled left, right, up, down. Your emotions are used against you. And these shadowy figures that, speak manipulation. They're supposed to be world leaders, right? And we're all pulled around, and our emotions are used against us. And that is also another aspect of our shadow being used against us, right? So in the form of the lack of personal truth, right? Or the militant alignment with your personal truth. That is shadow, right? Like if you are immovable in your ability to like see from other people's perspective, that's not heart. That's not kindness, right? Like we can have our truths and still be compassionate for other people who have different truths. And we have to acknowledge that my truth is not going to be everybody's truth, that my balance within myself is not going to be somebody else's balance, right? And we have to really honor that, I'm going to sing a song. Oh gosh. Yes. Woo, worked in Washington Heights. Wow. That will, Margaret, that will toughen you up. Yeah. New York City is not for the faint of heart. And I really definitely like recommend visiting and leaving, Visit and leave. Remember that Manhattan Island is in the shape of a penis, and it was the fertility island of the Mohawk and the the other tribes that I don't know their names of. And I always forget. But it was a place that the indigenous would visit and either conceive or deliver their babies. But they didn't live there. And that's why New York is a hugely powerful creative center, because it was, it is and has been literally a magnet for creation. And that was known by the indigenous. So, notice how and where the diaspora, I'll say the white bodies who made these decisions on where to settle, where they were drawn to, right? Like you'll notice that a lot of the places where the settlers settled were places of high energy, right? And probably was lost on them about that, right? Because those teachings of connecting to ley lines and energetics and power places are really they draw you there. They're magnetic, right? And so this was an intuition that was not a cognizant awareness, I assume for the pilgrims, especially pilgrims and pioneers. So this song that I want to sing is a song of empowerment. And I actually wrote this song during, really in the middle of the Democratic National Convention, where Bernie Sanders was supposed to be the nominee. And, Miss Hillary Clinton had to have her time in the sun, which she didn't get anyway, right? And it was very obvious that Bernie was hurt in some way, physically hurt. He did have a mark on his face. and he was put back in his place. And that was a political revolution for me inside. And so I received or wrote this song. Speak truth to power. Speak up in this hour. Follow your heart right. And love beyond your borders. Love beyond your orders. It's your sovereign birthright. Lighting light into all things, I will share the joy it brings. Even in the darkest of places, love prevails, the human races. Rising, crystallizing, divine being. Rising, crystallizing, divine being. Speak truth to power. Speak up in this hour. It's a sovereign birthright. And call on your allies, your loved ones and your spirit guides to help you carry the light. I sing light into all things. I will share the joy it brings. Even in the darkest of places, love prevails, the human races. Rising, crystallizing, divine being. Rising, crystallizing, divine being. All change starts from within. And love prevails, it's infinite. We can live in peace and justice. It begins and it ends with forgiveness. It begins and it ends with forgiveness. So speak truth to power. Speak up in this hour. It's your sovereign birthright. And love beyond your borders. Love beyond your orders. Help carry the light. I sing light into all things. I will share the joy it brings. Even in the darkest of places, love prevails, the human races. Rising, crystallizing, divine beings. Rising, crystallizing, divine beings. So we call in the presence of the balance between the light and the dark within ourselves. to allow the inner voice of truth, resilience, and humanity's greatness to rise within us, to know that we do have power, that we do have the ability to enact change, to make decisions that serve the collective's highest good. Being at this pivotal moment for humanity, that we must choose life, that we must choose resilience, and that we must empower ourselves to understand our shadow, to understand our darkness, so that we can illuminate it, love it, and transform it into strength, wisdom, and love. I call into presence within our hearts, our minds, our bodies, our souls, this dynamic balance, this equanimity of dark and light, acknowledging the polarity of this place, this binary presence within us, that not all darkness is shadow, that the mother, the divine feminine, resides within that place that is unmanifest. And in the rising of the divine feminine, in the return of her voice, her presence, and her purpose, we can remember that all darkness contains potentiality. That true illumination actually means courage, presence, and willingness to grow, to heal, and to transform. I call upon the presence of shadow, of darkness, of the unmanifest, to be equally present in our lives, for when it is ready for illumination, that we can have more strength, more resilience, and more profound growth than ever before. It is through our love for humanity, our love for each other, and our love for our own existence, remembering why we came here, why we are here now at this precise time. It's not for nothing. We each carry specific, unique medicine that requires us to serve it, that requires us to know it, so that we can present it in its greatest form for the greater good. So we presence the balance within ourselves of masculine and feminine, mother, father, divine. The Regulus star teaches us in the morning that we have the power, our sovereign birthright is to claim the reality we desire and to hold it within our fields. We have this power. We have a responsibility to our power, to hold it within our fields. We have a responsibility to each other to acknowledge and honor that which is uncreated, that which is created, and that which we hold and hope for. Our future is yet to be determined. We are the ones that need to determine it from this place of humble power, authentic awesomeness. I am in my power. I am in my true creative force when I can hold my shadow and light equally. When I can recognize my inner judge and my outer awesomeness at the same time. That I can judge myself and still fucking sing, right? That I can go, oh, what about that? And keep going, right? That I can acknowledge that I have essences within myself that might even hold me back a little bit and still continue forward. Still be present for all of you. I pray that my presence, my outwardness, my showing up is inspiring for you to show up. The way that leaders lead is by encouraging others to do the same thing. Encouraging others to stand in their power and listen to their heart. Not to do what we say, but to do what your heart tells you to do. That's leadership. To teach you how to listen to your own heart, follow your own guidance. So let us set some beautiful intentions for this time, for our collective future. We have an opportunity to choose greatness with the technology that has been created by people that may have their shadows prevalent, where their shadows are in charge. And so those of us whose shadows are not in charge, but whose hearts are in charge, we can take advantage, grasp this moment, and create a future with or without technology that serves the greater good, that does not serve the beast, but that serves love, that serves the magic that this place holds. And we have to remember that soul essence of when channels channel star beings, one of the most common things that you will hear is how magical of a place Earth is, and how much so many beings want to be here, want to experience this place, want to create in this space, and that this place here is incredibly unique, and there aren't many places like it. So if we can hear that, and we can remember that, and we can restore that presence within our being, we can be empowered that the lessons, the stories that we've told ourselves, our life narration, it's all very minor to the major power that is here waiting for us to tap in, to overcome those old stories, to overcome how we've been treated by others our whole lives, and to say, I'm actually going to choose to have a different experience. And I might need to start by just saying, I'm ready to have a different experience. That's how you begin to empower yourself. That's how you acknowledge those shadows, acknowledge those parts of you that have been wounded, incredibly wounded, and those wounds are holding you back because you keep telling that story, because that's my story and I'm sticking to it. Yeah, that's not serving you. What's serving you is, I'm healing now. I'm overcoming those wounds. Those wounds are healing every time that I acknowledge that they don't hold me back anymore. Right? So when you are ready to change your story, the world's story changes. There's a lot of ways that entire cultures, ethnicities, carry ancient wounds, and they deliberately regurgitate it to their congregations, to their families, to their children. Always a slave, always a wounded one, always less than, always persecuted, always genocide. And as long as those narrations, those stories that are tied to their spiritual beliefs and their theological destiny, they're trapped. They're simply trapped. And as long as humanity continues to agree with those stories of pain, then stories of pain continue. Stories of victimhood and shaming continue. And they continue for every individual because that narration was imprinted at such a young age, probably even within the womb because the mother believed it, right? So we have a lot to overcome. Whether or not you were raised within a theology that was espousing these old stories of victimhood, right? You have your own stories of victimhood that you have to overcome. And your empowerment comes from the willingness to experience something different. So as we enter into spring here in the Northern Hemisphere, and as the Southern Hemisphere enters into autumn, they're also in this equinox, this balance. We're in it together. And they, in the South, are entering into shadow season, right? They're entering into the fall and the winter, and we are coming out of shadow season. But hopefully, we're coming out of shadow season knowing more about our shadow, having learned from it, having spent time with it. One of my shadows is not listening to my body's sensitivities, right? Like literally giving myself dairy. It's like, I'm gonna let my tongue and my flavor and my brain who wants this crack of cheese, right? And then my body suffers. My lungs suffer. And then I can't sing as, or as well as I want to. And so there's this like, wait, am I allowing my ego to have more power than my true desire to have health and happiness in my body, right? That's just a very small example of choices that we make according to our shadow's desires. Yeah, it is ego. It is ego. And ego is connected to shadow. So, sorry, my Didn't turn off my thingamajigger. So let's take a deep breath together. I honor my shadow and my light, my dark and my bright, my God and my goddess, my weakness and my prowess. I honor all of the parts within me that are ready for change, that are ready for growth, to come out of the dark corners where she hides, afraid of her own power. And I shine the light upon that part of myself that is ready for healing, even though she is scared, even though she is wounded, even though she has been telling herself the same story again and again and again. I am ready for healing. I am ready to acknowledge that the divine light resides within my being and that I can illuminate myself at any time I need to. Great, glorious, dark parts of myself, I call you forward so that you can be illuminated, so that you can be transformed, so that we can be in resonance with the highest form of my being, so that I can hold higher frequencies and not be brought down by triggers and pain and old stories. I am ready to write a new story for myself and for the collective, for humanity to rise above distortion, to rise above disbelief, to rise above, to simply rise above. The work that I do for myself, I do for everyone. The healing of the war within my being heals the war outside of my being. I will continue forward, facing the shadows of humanity within myself and within the collective. I will continue to speak truth to power. I will not stand down in the places where we are being silenced. I will speak, I will sing, I will shine. And I pray the same for you. Breathe with me. Thank you, Mother of Darkness, Revealer of Shadows, for showing myself to me, for showing us all ourselves. Any questions? So remember that I am having a sale for Spring Equinox until the end of March. My hour-long sessions are 1/3 off. And I'm really happy to support all of you in your revealing of your shadows, supporting you in your shadow work, supporting you in your empowerment, in your leadership in all of the ways, whether big or small, whether just simply leading yourself or leading thousands or millions or billions. I'm here for you to support that. This Saturday is the last day of the Spirit Releasement Therapy training. And if you would like to participate in that, or have the recording, you can still register and receive that. If you are not able to participate in person, and you do, take the training, I want you to reach out to me to have a special session so that we can practice it together, so that I can make sure that you understand the process. So please reach out to me if that is the case. And so much love to you. We still have 4 more spots for the women's retreat at the end of April. And really excited and just love how that is coming into shape. So our house is amazing. I was looking at the pictures again last night, just kind of drooling over it. But secluded in the woods in our own sacred space, and getting to visit the mermaid temple and spend all day doing delicious feminine things. So reach out if you'd like to know more about that, and you can of course go to my website for all of the information that you need. So much love to all of you. Have a really, really beautiful day. Take care.